It's 1992. Nigel Mansell is dominating the Formula One World Championship, and he's well on his way to finally claiming his first title. But things aren't going nearly as well for his fellow Brit, Perry McCarthy. Much like Mansell, Perry has scratched and clawed and fought his way up through the ranks, and he finally has his chance at the pinnacle of motorsports. With little to no money backing him, Perry is clinging on to his F1 dreams at all costs, much to his team owner's chagrin. This is the story of Andrea Moda Formula on this episode of Disqualified. Yeah, welcome back. Been a hot minute.
I have goosebumps. I got goosebumps. I don't know. Wow.
This is Disqualified. It's only been a little bit since we last did one of these. I'm your host, Matthew. I'm here with Davey.
Me.
Tommy.
Howdy.
Him.
What have you guys been up to?
Oh my god. Too much. I got married. I don't know, you know what I mean?
I was gonna say, yeah, since we last recorded, Davey got married, I got a cat, Tommy finally scored an F1 podium after 15 years.
God bless America. It was a long time coming. It was around the corner at any point. What a great track. That Silverstone is.
Yeah. So
oh my gosh.
It's been a while since we've done one of these.
It has been since March 2022, by
Is
the
it
way.
really? Was it March?
Yep.
Really?
Yep,
Oh my god.
March
I thought
No, it couldn't have been that long. There's no way.
Yes, it is. It is.
I knew it was 22. I thought it was later in the year. Oh shit. Okay.
Wow.
Holy schmoly.
The worst part is I don't even have an excuse. I don't know, just didn't feel like writing.
Wow. Wow. Huh.
Life gets busy. A lot.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
what
I guess.
we're learning there is a lot happened to Tommy too, in that.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Huh. Okay. Well, existential crisis aside, we're back.
We are.
We've never been so back.
Never.
This is one, though, that I've wanted to do for a while. It ties into a team that we've previously covered, and Andrea Moda is widely considered the worst team in F1 history, but we'll be the ones to decide that by the end of this episode. But I guess we'll just jump right into it, because it starts with a familiar friend, and that is our man Enzo Coloni's eponymous F1 team.
Yeah.
So, it's late September of 1991, and F1 is in Catalunya for the Spanish Grand Prix. Friday morning signals the start of the action for the weekend as pre-qualifying begins. Scuderia Coloni's entered the weekend with a goal in mind: make it past Friday for the first time all season. When I wrote this line, I forgot they also hadn't made it to past Friday for the entire last season either. So, things aren't going well. All the cars in the pre-qualifying lottery begin making their way to the track: the Brabhams, the Footworks, the AGSs, the Lone Fawn Metal. But the Coloni C4 never joins them. Pedro Chavez is refusing to get in the car. He's failed to pre-qualify for every single race this season, and the team hasn't paid him. Chavez walks away in frustration, and the defending British F3000 champion leaves his F1 career behind him with just 13 failures to pre-qualify to his name. This day also marks a major turning point in this struggling F1's outfit's existence. But it's not this incident. Enzo Coloni has made a deal. Despite the lack of money or appearances on Sunday, he's found a buyer to take his team off his hands. This buyer doesn't have any history in motorsports. However, he does have an expertise in something that we all know is important: feet. Andrea Sassetti is the man who's buying it. Now, this was a strange purchase at the time because Andrea, like I mentioned, has zero history in motorsports. He's a shoe designer.
Yeah.
He started his own company, Andrea Moda, in the mid-'80s, and by the end of the decade, the company had actually achieved a pretty high level of success, and that allowed him to start exploring his other passion, cars. Now, he came across Coloni because Enzo owned a factory that manufactured shoe uppers, according to the Andrea Moda documentary, which I used as a major point of reference for this. Which, by the way, one of the best reasons why we waited so long to make this, had we made this as a follow-up in 2022, that documentary wouldn't have come out yet. So,
that was
the plan.
yeah,
I was waiting for that. Yeah.
we're playing the long con this whole time.
That was
So.
the plan. Also, I do want to say... no, you go ahead, Tommy. I'd love to hear what you have to say.
I wanted to back up just a smidge to our man Pedro Chavez's career. I did look him up prior to the show. Not everything was too bad for him. Afterwards, he did win a couple Portuguese touring car races, finished second in the points in '96, and then went on to compete in 2 24 Hours of Le Mans. So, for what it's worth, I mean, look, his F1 career might have been the most definition of disaster, I would suppose. But look, he made a career in he was in motorsports for a while after that.
Listen, he failed to pre-qualify 13 more times than I ever have. So.
Right. Yeah. Correct.
Pedro's he's one of several drivers from this era where he just landed with the wrong team at the wrong time. You think about like Scott Wimmer in NASCAR, where everybody who worked with him was like, this guy rules, and then he ended up with a dying Bill Gates Racing, and it was like, well, so what are you gonna do?
Bill Gates Racing?
I was gonna wait. Yeah, I did want to bring. He did say Bill Gates Racing.
Did I really?
I meant
Bill Davis. Although Bill Davis is a time traveler, as we have decided. So
that's a whole other. Honestly, we could do a Disqualified show about that. I think.
The Christmas special.
Yeah, the Bill Davis Racing edition. Dodge lawsuit.
Yeah.
Honestly, April Fool's next year, I'm down. You know
yeah. So Andrea Sassetti buys Coloni, and one of the first things he does is he takes their spare old chassis and he paints it red and white, and he drives it out onto the road in a local industrial park and starts doing hot laps.
That's as cool as it gets. If you're watching the video here on this one, there's a picture on your screen right now that's what I want to do. That's the point. That's what it's all about.
Driving it on a public road with no helmet. Just
definitely need some text on this image that just says you can just do things. I feel like this is perfect. You can just do things.
That is an attitude that fits a lot of things about Andrea Moda, because again, there is no reason why Andrea Sassetti should have had a Formula 1 team, but he did. So the documentary has the footage of him ripping around this industrial park, and it's just so good. There's so much footage in it that never would have seen the light of day had they never made that. There's also an anecdote that when the police arrived, they were very amused, but they were like, "Hey, you can't just drive an F1 car on the street," and he just kept insisting, "But I'm Sassetti." So apparently. These police officers did not know the owner of a boutique shoe manufacturing business, who could have seen that coming.
And honestly, shame on them.
Yeah.
For not knowing.
So, according to Andrea, though, Bernie Eccleston had tried convincing him to take over the team throughout the year. Enzo himself had asked Andrea for an investment, but Andrea just decided to buy the whole ass team off him anyway, and took it over in September of '91. And after Pedro Chavez's failure to take the track, they also announced that Andrea had bought the team. Seems like an omen that he buys the car and then all of a sudden the driver quits. So, yeah. Coloni would hire Naoki Hattori for the final 2 races of the season, who was even further from pre-qualifying than Pedro Chavez was, and that marked the end of Scuderia Coloni's time in Formula 1.
Wow.
So, now you got a new owner. He's theoretically going to bring money. What is he going to do? Well, the first thing he did was enter the 1991 Formula 1 Indoor Trophy at the Bologna Motor Show, which we've talked about this before. I think it was on the Coloni episode. The old Coloni chassis, now painted black and with Andrea Moda decals dressing the side pods, test driver Antonio Tamburini defeated defending champion Gianni Morbidelli's Minardi in the first round of the 6-driver bracket before losing in the second round to Johnny Herbert's Lotus. Sassetti then contacted Simtech, who were an engineering firm founded by designer Nick Worth, to purchase a chassis design from them. Simtech had worked with BMW on a prospective F1 entry into 1990, though the plan never came to fruition. Andrea Moda commissioned the firm to build the chassis for them instead, planning on debuting it at the 4th round in Spain. Until then, Sassetti planned on using the old Coloni chassis, now dubbed the C4B. Also, I did not mean to just delete that sticky note, but here we are.
They don't know about that.
I accidentally just...
They can't... Listen, there's a whole thing, you know.
Yeah, whatever. So, the C4B could trace its roots back to the Coloni C3 from 1989. Need I remind you, it's 1992. So, it was originally designed for a Ford DFR V8, and then it was heavily modified to fit the infamous Subaru Flat 12 engine that we talked about in the previous episode, and then converted.
Damn, that thing.
Converted back to the Ford V8. And then Andrea Moda modified it to fit a Judd V10 and mated it to a gearbox from last year's BMS Scuderia Italia car. And despite the engine weighing 55 pounds less than the Ford engine, the C4B was reportedly still one of the heaviest cars in F1 history. Yeah. So, we're not off to a great start.
I like that a lot. That's a lot of fun.
They then signed their two drivers, Alex Caffey and Enrico Bertaggia. Caffey had previously driven for Coloni in F3 and made his F1 debut at the '86 Italian Grand Prix with Osella, the first ever 27th qualifier for an F1 Grand Prix.
Wow.
That's just something that I found in the process of making this, where basically they had I think it was a team either entered an extra car or it was like one team's second car shut down or something like that. So they had 27 cars at the field, and the FIA was just like, fuck it, just let them all race, and just added an extra grid slot for 2 races. So, again,
well, hell yeah,
you could just do things.
Oh, that's cool. They wouldn't do that today. They'd say, "No, go home."
As you have the other teams like actively fighting to prevent Cadillac from joining. Like, how dare you? So, over the next 4 seasons, Caffey would drive for BMS Scuderia Italia and Footwork Arrows. He showed promise and was heralded as one of F1's rising stars in 89 and 90, but 91 saw him saddled with a disastrous Porsche engine that tanked the team's fortunes. That might have to be a future episode. He also missed 4 races that year due to an injury sustained in qualifying at Monaco. There is a video of the aftermath, like he literally broke the chassis in half. It's wild.
Oh my God.
I didn't know you could get going fast enough at Monaco to do that. And he wouldn't qualify for a single race until the final 2 in Mexico and Australia. So Caffey was very much looking for a fresh start. And he signed his contract in Sassetti's nightclub, which also had an upstairs apartment that Caffey would live in leading up to the season.
God, how cool is that?
Hard as hell.
It doesn't get cooler than that.
What the
Alex
hell?
Caffey is one of the guys they interview in the documentary, and he seems like a pretty cool dude. So he had much nicer things to say about the team than I was expecting him. But that also might be 30 years of hindsight.
I was gonna say, yeah, I think 30 years. Well, I guess not even 30, but you know what I mean. I think looking back, things get a lot rosier.
Yeah. Hey, if someone paid my rent for a few weeks leading up to racing in Formula 1, I'd be pretty okay with them. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and also you live upstairs from a club.
Yeah.
So.
Especially
and you're a Formula 1 driver.
Shoo. Yeah, exactly.
I think you're doing all right.
That Nomex cologne.
Their second driver, Enrico Bertaggia, had previously run the final 6 races of 1989 for Coloni, failing to pre-qualify each time. After 2 seasons in Japanese Formula 3000, a lone third being his only points finish, Enrico was lured back to F1 by Sassetti, presumably for sponsorship. And then finally, Bernie Eccleston recommended the former team manager of AGS, Coloni, and LaRousse, Frederick Dano, to manage the team. So, a mixed bag. You know, Caffey seems like he's pretty talented. Enrico is very clearly a pay driver. They've got somebody experienced running the team. Yes, the car is outdated, but maybe they've got a shot.
The fact that Bernie was so, I guess, involved in the team's formation is interesting. I mean, maybe that's just me being ignorant to how much he was really in on things over there at that time, but that's kind of surprising.
So if I recall correctly, I think Bernie Eccleston had left Brabham. He was originally the team manager of Brabham and then became the president of the Formula One Constructors Association. And then he kind of parlayed that into his position of running F1. So he was still very involved with the teams, like, personally. And, this is around the same time where the Group C sports car series was kind of collapsing in on itself, and so a lot of those manufacturers are jumping to F1. And so Bernie's in a position where he's kind of trying to rally everyone around him to get F1 to become even bigger. And so he sees like, hey, this guy seemingly has a lot of money and he wants to keep this team on the grid, so let's help him out, So
shoes.
Yeah, shoes. maybe Bernie's just a big sneakerhead. You never know. So, the season kicks off at the South African Grand Prix. This is the first race at Kyalami, I believe, in like 8 years, and they had completely redesigned the track since then. So there would be an extra practice session on Thursday due to the new track format. Andrea Moda showed up with one of the two former Coloni C4 chassis painted in black with the livery. Caffey ran a handful of laps in this extra session. Bertaggia never hit the track, and a lot of people were speculating that it was still the C3B. There's also a rumor that it still had the Subaru engine. I kind of doubt that, but I wanted to put that in there just in case. So if anybody finds any more info about it, I would imagine Subaru probably took their engines back after they left the team, but you never know. However, the FIA refused to allow Andrea Moda to participate in pre-qualifying due to a complication with Sassetti's purchase of Coloni. So FISA, the organization at the time that ran F1, ruled that the company that Sassetti purchased from Coloni was not the company that constructed the chassis, but instead a new team that hadn't paid the $100,000 entry fee for new teams. Basically, Enzo just sold Andrea Sassetti his garbage cars. It didn't actually sell him the entry. So he...
Oh, brother.
Our man might have pulled off one of the great swindles of all time.
Oh, wow.
So, this also...
They just gave him some backed up inventory. What the hell?
Well, this also created another problem, which is that if they do pay this entry fee, Coloni now can't run, or Sassetti can't run the old Coloni C4 chassis, as the Concord Agreement at the time stipulated that new teams are not allowed to run other teams' old chassis. So, basically, this investment that he just made is completely useless, because had he bought the entry, or ruled he had bought the entry from Coloni, he could run Coloni's old cars, but they were considered themselves a new team, and you can't just buy somebody else's old car and run it. Like, that's not how the rules work. So instead of paying that $100,000 fine, Andrea Sassetti decided he would sue FISA, and he estimated that this lawsuit, which he lost, later cost him $500,000. So
Sucks.
maybe not the best financial decision.
Dude. Come on, man.
I want to point out, this is the first Grand Prix of the season.
It's a hot start. Well, but it's not about where you start, right?
Yeah, it is true.
That's how you finish.
Surely it gets better.
Yeah. So, that marks Andrea Moda's stint in South Africa, as the next race would be in Mexico. So, Simtech would speed up the production of the S921 chassis that they had commissioned in order to have them ready for the second round. The cars were barely finished in time for Mexico, but the team withdrew after arriving. The new cars never hit the track. They showed up just to avoid an additional $200,000 fine for missing around. There is a really cool anecdote. I don't remember if it's Mexico or if it's the upcoming race, about like mechanics from every team were chipping in to help build the S921 and get it ready for the race. There's actually footage of this again in the documentary, which is pretty cool to see. So, however, Alex Caffey and Enrico Bertaggia were very critical of the team's lack of preparation, so Sassetti reportedly fired both of them. Caffey claims that they both quit on amicable terms. It's up in the air on who's telling the truth in that story, but Andrea Moda would need to find 2 more drivers for the Brazilian Grand Prix in 2 weeks.
So, I've got to be very careful here. I've got to be very careful, but man, this just seems so familiar to me. I don't know why. I've got to be very, very careful. All I'm saying is I understand. Doesn't matter who's right and who's wrong. I just understand.
Oh my god! I tell you what, it's a good thing it's only the cars and driver, because otherwise they're doing pretty good. Once they get cars and drivers, they might actually be doing all right here.
Yeah,
so.
There's nothing else that you need other than those two things.
There is, for all it's worth, as incompetent as they appeared to be, the fact they were able to figure out what I assume is hiring somebody to ship the cars over there and get that logistics sorted. I'm impressed by that. Very impressed by that.
Yeah, I mean,
that's not really saying much, but
I'm glad they did it.
Right.
Because it's making one hell of a story so far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
they shipped over a half-finished. They shipped over half a car. They're like, oh, sorry, we can't make this one. Actually, sorry, we thought we could. I don't know what happened.
I like that getting everybody else to do your work for you to finish the car, and then we're like, all right, thanks guys, we'll be back next week.
And then to top it all off, you fire the drivers.
That goes hard. I'm actually coming around on this Sassetti guy. I think maybe he's just a genius. We'll find out.
Bro's just operating on another level. Like,
yeah.
There's a really good picture in the documentary of just Enrico and Alex both just like sleeping in the bleachers. Like, like, I don't know. Maybe I'll get to drive eventually. So now the F1 circus moves on to Brazil, and Andrea Moda's got to find 2 new drivers. Luckily, they found a pretty good one for their first driver. So former star of the show, Roberto Moreno, was hired for the first car, alongside F1's debutant Perry McCarthy. So Perry came from a group of British drivers moving up through the ranks together, commonly referred to as the Rat Pack. It consisted of him, future world champion Damon Hill, 3-time Grand Prix winner Johnny Herbert, 12-year veteran and future announcer Martin Brundle, 3-time podium scorer and twice Brundle's confusingly named teammate Mark Blundell. They're on 2 separate occasions. Brundle and Blundell were teammates, and this is going to sound a little bit insensitive, but it's true. But during those 2 seasons, there is a famous story that the Japanese announcers had a very tough time with Brundle and Blundell driving the same car. So it's not me making fun of Japanese people. It's just a quirk of the language. But yeah. And then as well as Julian Bailey and Martin Donnelly, who both had short-lived F1 careers. Fun fact, have either of you guys seen the F1 movie?
Yes. Yeah. I am aware of the connection.
Yeah. Martin Donnelly is basically Sonny Hayes. Yeah. So all 5 others had made it to F1, and they had all spoke very highly of Perry, but a chronic lack of sponsorship dollars meant he had trouble following them through the ranks. Instead, Perry had spent 1990 and 1991 running IMSA sports cars in the U.S.
Hell yeah.
Perry's kind of going to become the main character of this story, mostly because one of the other major resources I used for this is Perry's autobiography, Flat Out, Flat Broke. Great book. You should read it. Perry is an example that Murphy's Law is a real thing, because literally everything that could go wrong has gone wrong in his career so far. It's kind of absurd. That said... Like
I said, I understand.
That said, Roberto Moreno and Perry McCarthy seem just like a joy to be around. They are the stars of the Andrea Moda documentary. So that's my biggest takeaway from this, is I was like, man, I just really like Roberto Moreno and Perry McCarthy after this. So they both seem like great dudes.
Hell yeah.
So McCarthy's deal with Andrea Moda wasn't ideal, but it was a foot in the door of F1 that he needed. Perry wouldn't be paid for the season, and he was responsible for his own transportation to each Grand Prix. Surely this won't lead to problems. He also still technically hadn't received a super license, which is required to take part in an F1 race. Bernie Eccleston had vouched for him, and the Tuesday before the race weekend in Interlagos, and the day before he boarded his flight to Brazil, his super license was granted. So
that's as cool as it gets.
Just
that's amazing.
Sneaking in right at the last second.
Holy moly.
Upon arriving at the track, an Andrea Moda car actually took the track. Moreno completed 2 laps in the brand new S921 in pre-qualifying with a time of 1 minute 38.569 seconds, which was 15 seconds off the next car in 4th and 23 seconds off Nigel Mansell's pole time. However, Perry McCarthy's super license would last 3 days as it was accidentally granted. FISA revoked it on Friday, and he was not allowed to participate in the weekend, even though his car was never finished, so he probably wouldn't have even made the track.
What?
So this is where this complication comes in. So Perry had never completed in a full F3000 season or won a regional F3 title, which are both automatic qualifiers for a super license. The Formula One Commission, which is a 13-man council which contained 5 team principals on it as well, is in charge of granting super licenses, not FISA, who had mistakenly granted Perry one. Now, Bernie Eccleston felt genuinely bad about this, and he basically gave Perry the roadmap on what he needed to get his super license. And he told him that there was a provision for drivers who didn't meet the requirements where the commission would vote on granting him one. So, with Bernie's blessing, Perry had to convince the leaders of Ferrari, McLaren, Williams, Benetton, and Minardi to vote him in time for the next race. So, it's still not great.
Oh my god.
So, so then the F1 circus is going to move on to Spain. So, Andrea Sassetti wasn't this patient, though, as he had already tried to replace McCarthy. Enrico Bertaggia had returned with $1 million in sponsorship money that would be all his under the condition that he got his seat back. However, McCarthy's super license was granted, and then FISA told Sassetti that he'd used all his allotted driver changes and must run Perry for the remainder of the season. So I will say, I think a big part of this is because Bernie was trying so hard to get Perry on the grid that immediately Sassetti's trying to replace him, they were probably going to not turn a blind eye on that rule and just be like, no, like, we're trying to get this guy in the car. You're not going to do this to us. So,
$1 million in sponsorship money is a lot of money, even today, which is kind of crazy to think about. Maybe not at the Formula One level, but just in general, is a lot today. I can't imagine in the early 90s what that might have done to change the course. I mean, well, it sounds like fundamentally there's some institutional failures, but nonetheless, right? Like, that could have turned out way differently. We might not even be here right now had it gone through.
Yeah,
and Enrico was back in the car.
You think about how many sets of tires that is, which surely will not be a plot point later in this story.
Oh my god, dude.
So,
okay, this is exciting.
So yeah, now they're being forced to field a car for a guy who not only is he not bringing money, they're not paying him. So that's the kind of operation this is right now. So Perry's car would not be completed until about midnight on Thursday. Sassetti also didn't arrange for anybody to make sure he woke up on time or even pick him up from the hotel on Friday. And Perry only made it to the track because he just so happened to run into Andrea Sassetti's brother in the hotel lobby.
Wow.
What?
Now,
what is...
this might be hyperbole or something. Perry might be playing up the story, but still, like, he made it to the track 5 minutes after pre-qualifying had started. Like, that's how close he cut it. He got into the car and pulled off pit road, and then his engine died about 60 feet past the end of pit road, ending his session, which is this picture right here. And
wow.
I think this just sums up Perry McCarthy's time in F1 better than anything else.
Still see the stickers on the tires.
The best part, too, is the documentary led to footage of this happening being unearthed. And, like,
oh my god,
Perry pulls out of the pit stall, and you can hear the engine kind of bog, and then it dies, and he just rolls right past the line at the end of pit road.
Wow.
Which means the crew can't come get him, because he is technically on the track. And so he did end up pushing the car back himself, but...
wow.
That was it.
Wow.
Oh my god.
Meanwhile, in the other car, Roberto Moreno managed 3 laps with a time of 1:37.155, which was 9 seconds off pre-qualifying and 15 off of Mansell's pole time.
Improvement.
So they're getting closer. They put 2 cars on the track, technically. So,
well,
can we do it under power next?
yeah, because one of them just kind of basically got rolled out there. It wasn't even running, which is amazing, by the way.
So technically, Perry does hold an F1 record for shortest qualifying attempt. So we'll give him that. So, the San Marino Grand Prix. In the weeks leading between the race, the team tested at Misano. Sassetti also drove the old C4B during the test. There's footage of that too.
Oh my god.
Dudes kind of rock.
Wow.
This is level 5. This is level 5. This is what this is. This is level 5 before it happened in IMSA or ALMS or whatever. This is unbelievable. Okay, I'm sorry. I couldn't believe it.
So, the testing with Moreno led to more pace from the car, and Roberto set a time of 1:28.943, which was only half a second off pre-qualifying and 7 seconds off Mansell's pole time.
Okay.
As it turns out, the S921 has some pace in it. Simtech might know what they're doing. McCarthy even managed 7 laps, but only managed a 1:37.537, which was 9 seconds slower than Moreno. But he also said that the team never fit a windscreen to his car, and he also didn't have a properly fitted seat, so he was just kind of getting thrown around in the chassis.
I bet those things probably would have, been the edge that they needed.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So, we're getting better. And next up is Monaco. So, Moreno managed to pre-qualify 3rd fastest. And then on top of that, he made the race. He beat Eric Van der Poel by 0.036 seconds, as well as future world champion Damon Hill for the final grid spot. Roberto's improved performance in qualifying, though, is largely credited to Valerie Horquera, who was in charge of fuel supplier Elf's technical support in Formula 1. Now, if you look closely at the picture on screen, you'll notice on the rear wing the logo for a different fuel supplier. Roberto Moreno was close friends with Valerie and convinced her to smuggle them a small supply of Elf's qualifying spec race fuel, which yielded a gain of around 50 to 60 horsepower.
Oh my. So they didn't get him a seat. They didn't get him a windscreen. But he could smuggle fuel in, and that'll make the difference. That is... They're not doing it like this anymore, man. I tell you what.
No. So, the best part, too, again, I hate to keep rehashing from the documentary. Go watch it. It's pretty good. I have some problems with it, but it's good. Is that during the first qualifying session, or the second qualifying session, Roberto set like a quick time, but he knew everybody was going to go out on track and set faster laps later. The team completely screwed up by... You remember a few years ago when Bubba's team accidentally extra torqued a wheel nut on when they were trying to take it off and just made it impossible to take the wheel off? The team did that.
Actually.
So they couldn't put 4 fresh tires on, and Roberto was like, just put 3. I'll run with this worn tire to go set a faster lap. And then they couldn't get the car to start because they had some other problem. And like the starter broke or something. And so he just had to sit there and watch as he almost got knocked out of the grid.
Oh, my God.
And in the race, Moreno managed to complete 11 laps before retiring with engine issues. However, this is the first real mystery of this episode. So McCarthy, still without a properly fitted seat and being thrashed around in his car, managed 3 laps before the teams called him into the pits. However, if you look up this race on Wikipedia, it will say that Perry McCarthy set a lap time of 17 minutes 5.924 seconds, which is impossibly slow. That is an average time, or an average speed of 7 miles an hour. There is footage of Perry on track. How did this lap time get reported? I went I literally subscribed to the website that has archives of historical newspapers, one of which is the main reference for the Wikipedia article, and I was like, that's gotta be a typo. There's a second newspaper that reports the same time! Now, Racing Reference doesn't have a time listed at all for Perry. So what the fuck was his lap time? This got to the level... I reached out to Perry. He has not responded to me, but I've tried contacting him because I need answer.
Yeah, well, if you do hear back, we need like a quick follow-up short.
No, we do.
Yeah. So I might send him another email because I need answers, Perry. And I know you're not that busy. Please respond. So my theory is that he had some sort of mechanical issue and didn't turn in a lap time, but like maybe he got back to pit road or something after the session ended and the scoring just listed him with 17 minutes and somebody reported on that, because there's another website that keeps track of like F1 results and they have him listed with a 7-minute time, which I imagine they probably look at that and like, that's a typo.
Yeah, either way, I mean, the answer is probably boring like that, but either way, like, oh my god.
I can't believe that.
And the most annoying part, F1's website has, like, records going all the way back to 1950, but they don't have pre-qualifying results.
That is annoying.
Which drove me up the wall, because I thought I was onto something. So... that's why I was going full Pepe Silvia about this, is I had just discovered this right before we started recording Fake Racers last week, and I was losing my goddamn mind. So, maybe someday we'll get an answer for this, but regardless, Perry was nowhere close to qualifying. So. Yeah, but the team made the race. They made... Roberto Moreno put an Andrea Moda in a race. So, which I will say, one of the coolest parts about this is Moreno still regards this as one of his greatest career achievements. Like, he talks about how special it was to put this car on. And, like, again, watching the documentary and seeing the interviews with all the former mechanics and everybody involved, seeing how much that meant to them was really cool. And it really made me feel things. So, because, you know, we can all sit here and laugh at these teams, but, like, this is a genuine accomplishment for this team that, again, is owned by a shoe designer. So,
yeah.
And they've had every goddamn problem you can imagine already. And
you're right.
So, good for them.
Yeah. We sit here and laugh because we're so far removed from it. But back in the day, I mean, these were Herculean efforts to get these cars just on track, clearly.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we can laugh at it now because it's done and over, but I can't imagine the feeling of elation some of these guys felt when the better moments happen like this. This is cool.
Oh, yeah. So, the Canadian Grand Prix. In the lead up to Montreal, Sassetti's discotheque burned to the ground. It was suspected arson. He was also apparently shot at during the fire. So
what?
Yeah, that's interesting.
Okay.
That's in the picture on the picture on the screen. That's Andrea Sassetti on the far left. That's Perry McCarthy in all white on the right, looking extremely bald. McCarthy was also contacted by a man who owned a private aviation business who offered him a deal to fly him to every remaining European round of the season. So, cool little deal.
Okay.
So that's one less piece of stress off of Perry McCarthy's shoulders.
Right.
Andrea Moda's team arrived at the circuit with their chassis, but no engines. Sassetti's story was that the Judd engines had been loaded, but a storm cut the power to the airport and prevented the flight from ever taking off. However, McCarthy's story is that Sassetti had not paid their debts and the engines were confiscated by freight forwarders. So, again, believe who you want to believe. Fellow Judd-powered team Brabham actually loaned them their spare engine for Moreno, but not McCarthy. Moreno set a time of 1:43.557, which was 14 seconds off pre-qualifying and 24 seconds off pole. And this led to team manager Frederick Dano quitting the team.
Wow, okay.
So, it's not getting better for Perry.
We kind of had like a really wholesome response to the Monaco stuff. We're like, oh, that's so cool, such a great achievement, and now we're like very swiftly back down to earth.
Yeah. If it's not clear, I think Andrea is very upset that he has to keep fielding a car for Perry. Just a certain other driver sitting there like, hey man, I got this $1 million for me if you put me in the car. So it's a real, that meme where it's like I consent, and then the third party's like, I don't. The third party's FISA.
Right.
So, the French Grand Prix. After promising to fly him and his wife, McCarthy's contact canceled his flight to Manicourt, leaving him to drive to the circuit.
All right.
So, not off to a good start there. Leading up to the race in Manicourt, the French lorry drivers union blockaded main roads around Paris in protest of a new licensing system, causing nationwide traffic jams. Perry and his wife Karen made it via an alternate route, as well as every other F1 team except Andrea Moda, who got trapped in the traffic jam for a week and never made it to the circuit.
Wow.
Which led to the cancellation of pre-qualifying entirely. There's also reports that Jordan's engine provider Yamaha got stuck as well, but they paid to have their engines air freighted to the circuit. These are a couple screen grabs from the documentary of their hauler stuck in a miles-long traffic jam. And then the picture on the bottom right is the crew just hanging out. They just camped out for a week.
That is... What is going on? Okay, we gotta keep going. This is amazing.
So, following 2 straight farcical non-appearances, nearly all of Andrea Moda's sponsors left the team, which left just a handful of smaller ones. So now, that $1 million that they could have had from Enrico Bertaggia is really hanging over their heads. That said, Sassetti does promise McCarthy leading up to his home Grand Prix that he will give him a proper shot of qualifying. So, maybe this will be a turning point for the team. We'll see. So, in the week leading up to McCarthy's home Grand Prix, he produced and sold t-shirts that depicted a cartoon of him on the front with the slogan, "Let Pell Out" on the front, which he sold at the track. I would love to get my hands on one of these.
Oh my god,
That's
yes.
awesome.
So
That's unbelievable.
I'm going to keep watching eBay. I want one of these really bad. The team actually made it to the track at Silverstone as well, and with engines. So we're
back on the right track.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Things are getting better. Overnight rain meant that the track was still damp at the start of pre-qualifying. Moreno was sent out on rain tires while McCarthy sat in the garage for nearly 30 minutes. Several team members in the documentary claim Goodyear refused to supply them with enough tires due to lack of payment. As the track began drying and urged on by pit reporter Bob Constanduros, McCarthy was sent out on Moreno's worn wet tires. Despite this, Perry set the joint fastest lap at the time before his clutch failed half a lap later. Moreno, the 2 Larussas, and the 2 Fondamentals all set faster times as the track dried even more during the session. So, they sent Perry out on essentially a dry track with wet tires that were also used. So,
oh god, this guy gets dumped on every race, dude.
Sassetti just hates this guy.
Holy moly.
So, Moreno set a time of 1:30.592, which was only a second and a half off pre-qualifying, but 11.5 seconds off Nigel Mansell's pole time, while McCarthy set a lap time of 1:46.719, 18 seconds off pre-qualifying, and 28 off of Mansell's pole time. So, Monaco might have been a fluke, as it turns out. So in the lead up to the German Grand Prix, McCarthy ended up calling the team headquarters in Ancona to arrange a meeting with Sassetti. The receptionist did not recognize who he was.
Okay.
Perry's aviation sponsor offered to fly him to Italy and then canceled at the last minute. So he flew himself to Bologna and was picked up by a mechanic where he apparently tried on some Andrea Moda boots for the first time. He was not impressed.
Okay.
And then a few days before his arrival, somebody recognized the team's parts van and shot at the mechanics.
Oh, God.
Perry, or not Perry, Andrea might be making some shady deals, as it turns out.
Right.
So there he also confronted Sassetti. I didn't want to put this whole thing in there. Go read Perry's book; it's really good. But there's a lot of him confronting Sassetti about what was going on, and Andrea being like, "All right, yeah." Then Perry's aviation contact also canceled his flight to Hockenheim at the last minute. So again, he's flying out of his own pocket. In a relatively drama-free outing at the Hockenheim ring, Moreno's time of 1:48.878 was just 0.3 seconds off Andrea Chisa's Fawn medal for the final pre-qualifying spot, before his car suffered a spectacular engine failure, as you can see pictured. Perry managed just one lap, which was slowest, but maybe potentially because he hadn't returned to the pits under his own power yet, Perry missed a weight check and was excluded from the results. So,
God bless.
Some teething troubles. So for the Hungarian Grand Prix, Perry's aviation contact again canceled this flight at the last second. He then called Perry back, though, feeling bad, and bought him a ticket to Hungary, although it was a one-way ticket. So,
dude, what? Who did this guy piss off? What the
this is what I mean. It's whatever racing god that Perry McCarthy pissed off in his life is making sure to make him pay. There's a story in his autobiography where they were entering a race with, I think it was an F3, where he still had a shot at the title, and in qualifying, the team's lift gate on the back of the hauler broke, so they couldn't get his car out in time, and he basically had to start dead last, and it basically cost him a shot at the title. That kind of shit is just constantly happening to Perry. It's ridiculous. So, Andrea Chisa was released from Fawn medal and replaced by Brabham driver Eric Vanderpool. Brabham chose not to field a second car in its absence, fielding only future world champion Damon Hill, whose 11th place finish in this race would also be the final race in Brabham's storied history, which meant Larissa's Bertrand Gachot was promoted out of pre-qualifying, meaning only one car would fail to pre-qualify. So one of the Andrea Modas is getting through, no matter what.
Whew.
Okay.
During pre-qualifying, again, McCarthy sat in the garage for essentially the entire session until the team finally set him out on track, but only with 45 seconds remaining in the session, which means he didn't have time to even start a proper lap, and so Perry, once again, did not pre-qualify. Following Brabham's withdrawal from the championship, pre-qualifying would no longer be needed, meaning that Perry is the final driver to fail to pre-qualify for an F1 race. So,
wow.
In qualifying proper, Moreno set a time of 1:22.286, which was only 2 seconds off Pierluigi Martini in 26th, and 6.8 seconds off Patrese pole time. So, again, there's some pace in the car. Yeah, it's another farcical outing for the team, but maybe things are turning around. So, we'll see. As we head to the Belgian Grand Prix. For the first time in nearly 2 years, like I mentioned before, pre-qualifying was not necessary. However, FISA confronted Sassetti at the track about their treatment of McCarthy and demanded they make a more legitimate effort to field his car. However, during the first qualifying session, Ligier's Eric Comas suffered a massive crash that left him unconscious, and he failed to set a lap time. Also, little tangent to the story is that Ayrton Senna stopped on track and basically tried to resuscitate Eric Comas, and it largely credits Ayrton for the reason he's still alive, which I thought was important to mention. Wow. Moreno set a time of 2:05.096, which was 6 seconds off Ukio Katayama's time in 26th, and 14.5 seconds off Mansell's pole time. However, McCarthy so this version of the story here is what has largely been repeated. However, there is an extra detail that I discovered during my viewing of the Andrea Moda documentary, which adds an interesting wrinkle to this whole story. So Perry managed to set a time of 2:15.050, which was 16 seconds off Katayama and 24.5 off of Mansell. However, on the run-up to Eau Rouge, Perry's steering began locking up during the 170-mile-per-hour right-hand corner. Perry barely managed to scrub off speed, and he scraped along the tire barriers and narrowly avoided disaster.
Holy fuck.
He also, tore a ligament in his shoulder from pulling on the wheel so hard.
Oh, my God.
Perry straight up says, if he didn't get the car turned, he would have died.
Oh, my God.
Upon returning to the pits, and after reporting the issue, Sassetti confirmed having known the steering rack was faulty after removing it from Moreno's car in the previous race. In protest, McCarthy refused to drive on Saturday's second qualifying session. So this is one of the most important aspects of the Andrea Moda story, is Perry has never said this as far as I can tell, but a lot of people speculate that this is Andrea Moda was trying to kill him. Which is a pretty damning assumption to make.
I will say, listening to the story and understanding the context beforehand, where $1 million is being held from him in his view by this young Englishman, I can't say I disagree with the accusation that he was trying to kill him, because I mean, otherwise, why do you put a faulty steering rack in a car at a track where a high-speed corner exists famously for huge crashes if things go wrong?
Yeah.
So,
the more charitable theory is maybe they were trying to injure or just scare him. However, in the documentary, there is footage of Roberto Moreno reporting the same problem. So, Roberto, obviously his wasn't nearly as dramatic, but he reported that when the car loaded up under G-forces on certain parts of Spa, the steering got extremely stiff. So I think more of what happened was that the team was we know this is a problem with the car, and people kind of ran with this problem, or ran with this theory. Either way, it's gross negligence by the team,
right.
That this was in a dangerous car. I am tempted to, or I am more inclined to say that it's more on Andrea Moda than it is on Simtech, because, Simtech's, they seemed like they knew what they were doing with designing this car. It passed its crash test, and when Simtech would enter F1 2 years later with their own chassis design, they never had any problems like this. So I think it was just lack of testing, lack of durability with what Andrea Moda were doing. But either way, that is unacceptable.
I will say that it is true. I mean, especially with the automotive world, you can have a reasonable product. You can have bright people manufacturing the things and designing them, but ultimately it does come down to a project management issue, which is all too realistic, and that I can understand that as well. That being said, I'm not saying this. Listen, a suspected arson, 2 shootings, couple of weird deals. I don't know. I wouldn't put it past Sassetti. I'm just saying.
They were trying to get him at that car. Whatever it was, they were trying to get him at that car. Whether it be the shootings or whatever, they were trying to get his ass out of that car. That is unbelievable. They sent him on track knowingly with a faulty steer. Dude,
yeah.
No. That was 100%. They didn't care if he died or got injured, or Sassetti didn't. He just wanted him out.
Yeah.
That is unbelievable.
Yeah, I was gonna say not smoking gun. That's not the right term, but Roberto having the same problem in the other car definitely lends them at least a little bit of plausible deniability. But at the same time, the Hockenheimring, it was a similarly high-speed track, and they didn't have the steering issues there. So it's strange. Either way, Perry McCarthy quits the team, and that is unfortunately the end of his F1 career. However, he would not be the only person who saw the end of his F1 career at this weekend, because during Saturday's rainy qualifying session, Belgian officials arrested Sassetti in the paddock on allegations of document forgery and fraud. FISA promptly banned them from F1 for, quote, conduct prejudicial to the sport. So this is the moment where my criticisms of the Andrea Moda documentary kick in, because so they interview Moreno, they interview McCarthy, they have Andrea Sassetti, and Perry is laughing and joking about how ridiculous the whole situation is. Sassetti basically never takes responsibility for the way that Perry was treated the whole year, and during this segment of the documentary, they all kind of allege that this is some conspiracy theory by Bernie Ecclestone to get him out of the sport, which maybe it is, but Bernie had also been extremely helpful to the team. You know, he is largely responsible for the fact that they even made the grid. So I could see him being sick of this team's fucking shenanigans and, you know, calling the police on him or whatever. But at the same time, it's hard to allege that it's like, oh, no driver's ever been arrested at the F1 pad. Like, this is the pinnacle of motorsports, Andrea. If you're wanted for fraud, they're going to know where you are. Like, it's not like you're not going to be at the track. So, and to his credit, he was held in jail for 2 days, I believe, and then was released. And I don't think he was ever actually charged with anything, but this was the end of the team. So, yeah, the team arrived at Monza the following week at the Italian Grand Prix, but they were refused entry. And that would be it.
Yeah.
That's the story of Andrea Moda and F1. So, somehow, in this whole mess, they made a race.
And that's where, I'll tell you what, if there's anything to hang your hat on, like, the logistics needed to get to the track, to somehow, well, I'd say somehow, to perhaps get a little help from friends for qualifying fuel and make it. Like, all of that, just to make it is a, like Davey said earlier, a Herculean effort. Man, at least they made it. I mean, again, I go all the way back to the top of the show. I go back to our poor man Pedro Chavez, and he didn't even get past pre-qualifying. So, again, at least they made it, right? Wow.
The most important thing to me is poor Perry McCarthy is still alive.
True.
I tell you what, that guy, he should have died many times.
Yeah,
I guess it's a good thing he didn't get on track.
Yeah,
because they would have killed him if they did.
They would have fit a bomb in his car. So, I guess we'll now go into the where are they now part of the show, and we'll start with Roberto Moreno. He would run French Super Touring the next year, and actually returned to F1 for one last season with Forti Corse in 1995 for one final terrible season. That'll have to be another team that we follow, or document on the show. He remains the only man to qualify for an F1 race in an Andrea Moda car, which is something he is very proud of. In 1996, he would join IndyCar/kart, and he would race off and on throughout 2008. He scored a podium at the infamous inaugural US 500 at Michigan, and he actually won at Cleveland and Vancouver in 2001. He would also race the 24 Hours of Daytona in 2005 and 2007, failing to finish both times. So, Roberto had a very solid racing career, all things considered.
That's a dang good career. If nothing else, achievement aside, story-wise, he was part of an unbelievable amount of stories.
Yeah, 2-time kart winner, F1 podium scorer, like, credit where credit's due. Perry McCarthy would test for Benetton shortly after due to an illness to their normal test driver, Alex Zanardi. He as well did some testing with Williams, though he would later be replaced by David Coulthard. He also raced the 24 Hours of Le Mans 5 times. He failed to finish each time. But you might know Perry from something else, or you might not know that you know Perry from something else. Because in 2002, the BBC rebooted a little show called Top Gear, and Perry was the original Stig. For 2 seasons, Perry was the show's dedicated test driver. The original Stig was famously killed off in the Series 3 premiere, where the Stig in a nitrous-powered Jaguar XJ had to accelerate to 100 miles per hour and stop on an aircraft carrier, which goes comedically wrong, leading to the original Stig 2 being, quote, killed. Perry has nothing but great things to say about his time on Top Gear, even though it was only 2 seasons. But that is, funnily enough, the thing that he is probably more famous for at this point. So, he now lives as a public speaker, and he wrote the fantastic book that I talked about earlier, Flat Out, Flat Broke, which was a major point of reference for this episode. Also, my copy is autographed, which I thought was pretty cool. So
that's cool.
That's
cool. So sick.
Perry seems like a really cool dude. So. Alex Caffey's 2 appearances with Andrea Moda would be his final 2 F1 weekends. He tried his hand at 24 Hours of Daytona, Sebring, Le Mans, highlight being a 3rd at Sebring in 2003. He had also made 8 starts in the NASCAR Wheel and Euro Series from 2016 to 2019, his best being a 5th at Adria International Raceway. Enrico Bertaggia's $1 million in sponsorship never bought him another ride in F1, and his 6 failures to pre-qualify with Coloni in '89 would be his only F1 track time. He returned to F3000 the following year. He ran various other Italian sports car series. He ran the 24 Hours of Daytona. Finished 9th in a Callaway Corvette, which is pretty cool.
Hard.
Also ran 24 Hours of Daytona in 98 and 99. But since then, he's worked as a chief instructor for young race drivers in Italy, as well as becoming the official Ferrari driving school course director. And in 2011, he co-created Dream Racing, the Las Vegas Motor Speedway-based luxury car driving experience. So Enrico did pretty well for himself.
I think he did fine.
Yeah,
he's fine.
He's doing just fine.
Clearly, he knew how to make some deals, even if he couldn't get the ride. I mean, getting $1 million in sponsorship money at all is impressive.
That's huge.
So I mean, he knew how to make good relationships.
He holds an official position at Ferrari too, which is an achievement on its own.
He made a real career.
Now for the team owner. Andrea Sassetti would be released from custody just 2 days later, and several members of the team believe Andrea's arrest at Spa was arranged by Bernie Eccleston to finally rid the paddock of his team. Sassetti would also be investigated for fraud in 2019, but was acquitted after a 4-year trial. I forgot to put a picture of it, but Sassetti then sponsored a kart team in a handful of races in 1993, famously appearing on Davy Jones' Indy 500 entry from that year. Afterwards, he kind of disappeared from the public limelight, only to reemerge to tell his life story 2 years ago in the documentary Andrea Moda Formula, The Craziest Team Ever. Since then, he also has started a public Facebook page, which is very strange. I would implore you to go look at it later. One of the main things is like an Andrea Moda fan cam that has what sounds like AI generated music over it, but it's been like directly translated from Italian to English, so the lyrics are all just like, "The cars were black, they go very fast." It's very weird. Frederick Dano would after leaving Andrea Moda, would try to enter F1 with his own team. That never got off the ground. Instead, he managed to Minardi from 96 up until 2001 when Paul Stoddart took over the team. Couldn't find more about him. He's also just kind of a minor footnote in the story of this episode. And then finally, Nick Worth, the founder of Simtech, who built the built and designed the S921, would be commissioned to design a car for a new team called Bravo F1, which was going to enter in 1993. It was owned by former driver Adrian Campos and managed by Jean-Francois Mosnier. The team would also run Judd V10s in what was to be named the S931. If you recognize Adrian Campos' name, he later founded Hispania Racing Team for their pitiful 3 seasons in the early 2010s. However, the car that bore a striking resemblance to Andrea Moda's Challenger failed its initial crash tests. Tell me if you've heard that one before. Before the problems could be rectified, though, Jean-Francois Mosnier passed away, and the entire project folded before it ever got off the ground. Seeing as Simtek now had 3 F1 failures to their name, Wirth took his team to F1 himself in 1994, founding Simtek Grand Prix. That, however, is a story for another time, because that is definitely a team that we'll have to cover. And that will not be a fun one, because Simtek had a lot of tragedy in their time, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Yep.
So.
Yep. Know that one.
So that was everybody involved with Andrea Moda, and now I want to get to a new segment on the show that we came up with, which is called the pre-qualifying grid, where we rank the teams based on how we think they did. This is just kind of the order I threw them in. Eurobrun, I think, is number 1, just down to the fact that they had like 2/3 of a season where they were consistently putting both cars on the grid, which edges them out over Coloni in second. The big debate is who's worse, Andrea Moda or Life. I'm inclined to say that Life is worse, but they also didn't intentionally try to kill their driver, allegedly. So
worse.
That's my disqualifier, I think.
Yeah.
Worse is a very. I mean, worse result-wise. Okay, yes, Life. Worse is a team. It has to be Andrea Moda for many reasons.
A myriad of reasons.
I can't disagree with your picks with Eurobrun and Coloni, 1-2, but I still want to put Life fourth, just because if I was going to say, oh, this is the worst F1 team, all right, by the book, I think it's Life. However, that does not discount any of the terrifically terrible management Andrea Moda went through during their short-lived time. I will say, though, at least qualifying and making a race, that's got to count for something. So I think I have to agree with it at 3.
Yeah, I think Roberto Moreno's qualification at the Monaco Grand Prix it's very load-bearing in that 3rd position. If it was just Perry McCarthy, we'd have a real friggin' race on our hands between the two of them.
Oh, if that's the case, then I would have to flip them, absolutely.
Yeah, because you have like the like 7-minute time that Bruno Giacomelli set at Imola for Life, and you could put that up against Perry McCarthy's alleged 17-minute lap time. So this will be one that I think if we keep doing these, we can update this. Hopefully we get to a point where the pre-qualifying grid has failures to qualify.
All about it.
That was Andrea Moda. Any closing thoughts before we get to the teaser at the end?
I've heard people say that Andrea Moda was a scummy team, but like, it's racing. I kind of just assume like, oh yeah, they, sounds about right. It's Formula 1 90s. I didn't realize they were trying to kill Barry McCarthy.
Yeah,
that was one thing that I did not quite clock. And honestly, I'm still kind of amazed that it was said to me, and I heard it, and I know it's in my mind it's true. I still kind of can't believe it.
3 years since our previous episode, I do want to say that in that time, what I've learned so much is the difficulty to get anything off the ground. So I'm very, I suppose, impressed the way they were able to show up, despite the fact that they like actively were trying to kill half their team. Like, it kind of blows my mind how they even got anywhere. And for that, I have to give them both a handshake and a middle finger, I suppose. I mean, wow. What a story.
Yeah, the documentary, I think one of the things it does really well is you get to meet everybody who was working at Andrea Moda. You get to hear their sides of the story, and you get to see things like how much the Monaco qualification meant to them.
Yeah.
And it really humanizes them. And for a while when I was watching it, I found myself actually kind of liking the team. It does kind of fall apart at the end of the second part of the documentary and into the third part due to the kind of...
Yeah, what happened then?
The kind of... Oh man, we don't know what happened at Spa. It's so weird, am I right? But yeah, it like they are... I feel like they are a little what's the word I'm looking for? Like, they're a little mischaracterized in history, so it was very cool to kind of look at Andrea Moda in a lighter light. But in the end, I do think they are hand in hand with life in terms of worst F1 teams of all time, because their treatment of Perry McCarthy was just ridiculous. And like, Sassetti does seem like kind of a shady dude. But at the same time, I did find myself kind of liking him throughout the documentary. So, yeah. But Andrea Moda was a team with a promising car, talented drivers, and seemingly plenty of sponsorship dollars that was derailed by an eccentric millionaire pulling all the strings. So what happens when you get two of them? You get Onyx Grand Prix. And that'll be the story on the next episode of Disqualified. Until then, do you guys have anything you want to plug before we get out of here?
I'm good for now. I'm mostly just still looking at the livery on this car. This is beautiful.
Yeah.
This is a beautiful racing machine. I can't wait to hear about what horrors befell them.
I'd like to know more about this Moneytron thing. Sounds pretty promising.
I cannot wait to talk about it.
It seems right up my alley, and I hope it's going to be up
Moneytron.
yours too.
Extremely dumb.
God, I love scams.
And on that note, this has been Disqualified. You can follow Track and Turf on everything. Thanks for watching. It is ironic that the last episode starts and ends with me being like, man, it's been a while. I won't take us long to do the next one. Don't look at the calendar when this came out.
No, that's good though, because that means the vibes were right. Like, we were ready for this.
Yeah.
Everything meshed into the perfect moment, and that's why we have this here right now.
Yeah, I was thinking earlier, I still lived with my parents the last episode.
Yep. So,
oh my gosh.
This has been Disqualified. Make sure to listen to Fake Racers if you want to hear more of Davey and I. There's also Oof Sides, which will be coming out if you want to hear us talk about football. And until the next episode of Disqualified, we will see you next time.
See ya.